Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5:30.
3 people are behind bars tonight after a manhunt in rural Buffalo. Cass County officials say they responded just before 10 this morning on reports of a suspicious car near a farmstead. Officers later found that vehicle and pulled it over, which they say eventually led to a burglary investigation. 56-year-old Scott Jelland, 43-year-old Kristen Cook, and 50-year-old Brian Jacobson are all facing charges ranging from burglary to possession of meth. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley was the only reporter on scene this afternoon and has the details.
The sign says it loud and clear, but that didn't seem to stop anyone today. Cass County deputies say after they detained 2 people in a vehicle near this abandoned farmstead on County Road 10, the search was on for another individual.
Our first thing that we want to do at that point is set up a containment perimeter so that no one in this area can get hurt, of course.
Johnner says when securing a perimeter, it's important to get as many resources as possible, saying they soon called in a drone team and a canine unit from Fargo Police.
Our concern, again, of course, is that the person would leave the property and go to someone else's residence around this area and put them in danger, and we, of course, don't want that.
Johnner says there were no threats made to officers or the public during the almost 3-hour manhunt, but he says that doesn't mean tensions weren't running high.
Anytime that you have a situation like this where we have abandoned residences, farmsteads, buildings, outbuildings, abandoned cars or anything like that where people can hide, of course our concern is, do these people have weapons? And anytime that we're looking for them, we're going into a potential ambush situation. So we always take extra precautions.
The landowner did not want to talk with me on camera, but says things like this do happen from time to time, and tells me today's suspects had set aside some of the items from the property to take off with, but says luckily that didn't happen. In Buffalo, Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
We looked into the criminal history of the 3 arrested and found this is not Scott Jelland's first time facing burglary or meth charges, but the most recent case closed back in May. The commotion in North Fargo last night seems to be the talk of the town today. We're talking about the standoff in the 1100 block of College Street in North Fargo. A man with a possible gun locked himself inside a home with 2 little girls, and after several hours, the 2 girls were reunited with their mother. But that man is still on the loose. Valley News Team's Callie Hubbard is live where it all happened and has the latest. Callie?
Yes, hi Melanie. I'm here right outside the home where this all took place last night on College Street. Now, if you take a look behind me, you can see that it's a pretty quiet out here, but that wasn't the same situation last night. NDSU students tell me that this was the talk of campus today. So I came out here to talk with neighbors like the Farmhouse fraternity across the street, and they said they got a pretty good view of the action, but they're not allowed to say anything right now. And other neighbors nearby are telling me the same thing. As for all the students I crossed paths with today walking home from class, they say they almost didn't come to school today because of fear of the man that still is out there.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people talking about it in our classes today and around campus and everything.
I mean, it's really nerve-wracking, and it just kind of gives me like an eerie feeling to come back to campus or even just to go home because you don't know where he's going to be.
I just got off the phone with Fargo PD just a little bit ago, and they said that they haven't arrested this man yet. They're not releasing his name or any identifiers as to what he may look like, but they say that there is no threat to the public at this time. Stick with Valley News Live as we continue to update you on this developing story. Reporting live in North Fargo, Callie Hubbard, Valley News Live.
Callie, thank you for that live report, and we'll have much more on this story tonight on Valley News Live at 9 on the Fargo CW and Valley News Live 10 at 10. Enjoy the hot and humid weather while you can. It'll disappear before you know it. Let's get a look at this evening's forecast with Nathan Hopper in your No Wait weather. How's it looking, Nathan?
Yeah, it's looking windy, as you saw there on our Dakota Magic Skycam, and plenty of gusty winds out there. We're seeing wind gusts of 31 in Sisseton, 29 wind gust in Wahpeton, 26 in Wadena, Fergus Falls, a 35-mile-per-hour gust in Aberdeen at this hour, but we're seeing Fargo, 22-mile-per-hour sustained wind gusting to 33 miles per hour. So because the strongest wind is to the south, so keep that in mind if you're traveling west or eastbound on 94 anywhere this evening, as you'll have quite the crosswind for you this evening. When with those winds, we have temperatures in the middle to upper 80s for us. So a warm one, and with the dew points being in the upper 60s and lower 70s, that combine those two things, the heat and the humidity, you get your heat index. So it feels like lower 90s to upper 80s for most of us for this evening, but I am tracking some changes in the forecast. Won't be as hot and humid, but that also brings the possibility of some thunderstorms and some rain to the forecast. So I'll break all that down for you for the rest of this work week here coming up in a couple minutes, Melanie.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. A 21-year-old is in jail after police say a deal made on social media turned into an armed robbery in Moorhead. Officials say Penja Lawuya met the victim over social media for a sale of an electronic device in the 1300 block of 34th Avenue South. Police tell us that's when Lawuya got into the victim's car and displayed a handgun. Lawuya then allegedly left with the electronic device without paying for it. Lawuya was eventually caught by police and now faces felony aggravated robbery charges. Police are asking for your help finding a runaway teenager from Moorhead. They say 17-year-old Cheyenne Bell took off in June and is possibly in the Fargo, Moorhead, Perham, or Alexandria areas. You're urged to call Moorhead Police or your local law enforcement if you have any information on Bell. The White House says President Trump is being cautious before definitely saying Iran is behind an attack on Saudi oil fields. Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley told reporters today the president wants to make sure there is evidence that directly points to Iran as the culprit of the drone strike. He said if the president were to pin the blame on Iran without proof, he would be called a warmonger.
I mean, it was a global attack on our, attack on the global economy. And the president is dealing with all of our partners and allies in the region. We want to make sure that the evidence and the information clearly points to a culprit here.
Gidley also said President Trump is open to making a deal with Iran, but they must change their behavior first. Meanwhile, multiple buildings were evacuated and classes were briefly canceled after a bomb threat at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul. The threat came in around 7:45 this morning. 4 buildings were then evacuated and classes were called off for several hours.
It's definitely kind of scary. I wouldn't want that to happen, obviously, but I think that public safety and the St. Paul police have been handling it pretty well, trying to take any measures that they can, especially through evacuating the buildings and just searching them and getting everybody in a safe spot.
We do not know yet what kind of threat was made to spark this scare. With Minnesota's archery deer season underway, hunters in the state's hot zones for chronic wasting disease are figuring out where to drop off the heads of their deer for testing. The science for detecting the fatal brain disease is making progress, but tissue samples must be sent out of state and results take a few days. Hunters need a faster, easier testing method. That's something the University of Minnesota hopes to develop in 2 years. Officials say a newly formed Minnesota Center is the university's first step in developing real-time diagnostic tests to help stop the contagion. Here's a heads up for Dilworth residents. The city is alerting you they'll be spraying for mosquitoes either tomorrow or Thursday. And here are some tips on how to limit your family's contact with the pesticide. Stay indoors during the application, shut the windows and turn off the AC, bring outdoor pet food and water bowls inside, and cover or remove children's outdoor toys. The spraying will be happening at 8 p.m. on either of those days. Longtime Jeopardy host Alex Trebek is undergoing another round of chemotherapy. Trebek says his numbers went sky high shortly after finishing his first round of treatment for stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The 79-year-old who first revealed his cancer diagnosis in March says his doctors are also concerned he's lost a large amount of weight. On ABC's Good Morning America this morning, Trebek said that chemotherapy has taken a toll on his body and sometimes causes excruciating pain in his lower back and leaves him fatigued and nauseous.